back to Girl Take the Lead, the podcast where we explore the real, raw, and remarkable stories of people breaking cycles, finding their voice, and leading with courage. And I'm your host, Canny. Today's episode arrives at a moment when many of us need it the most. The holidays can be beautiful, full of connection, tradition, and meaning, but they can also bring forward some of our most complicated relationships. This is the season when old patterns resurface, emotions run high, and many of us walk into family gatherings already bracing ourselves. So I am especially grateful to welcome back a dear friend of the show, Andrea Mein DeWitt, professional certified coach, best-selling author, and creator of the transformational Name, Claim, and Reframe methodology. Her book was featured on NBC's Today Show as the best motivational read of 2023, and her brand new audiobook just launched on December 2nd. In today's conversation, Andrea and I go deep into one of the most universal and tender topics, mother-daughter relationships. Especially as our mothers age, their identities shift, and the roles we once played no longer work. We talk openly about the myth of the good daughter, which is an episode we've covered before, and if you haven't heard it, I'll put it in the show notes so you can find it. And with that came the grief of losing the mother we thought we had, what happens when we discover long-standing patterns that once buffered or hid some of this relationship. In today's episode, we'll talk about why the holidays can intensify old family dynamics and how to stay in your power, the good daughter, bad daughter trap, and how to step out of it, holding both love and boundaries with aging parents, why anger is often fear in disguise, and how to respond instead of react when you're triggered. This promises to be a deeply intimate conversation between two friends who deeply love their mothers, have wrestled with their own expectations and identities, and are finding new ways to show up with groundedness, grace, and grit. If you're heading into the holiday dinner, a family visit with mixed emotions, this one is for you. Let's jump in. Here you go. So, Andrea, welcome back to Girl Take the Lead. Our conversation today is just going to be so fun, and we're going to take a lot of different paths, I'm sure, as we talk about this topic. But let's start first, if you would kind of introduce yourself to the audience so they remember you, because you've been on our show, I think 3 times. So we talked about your workbook, we talked about your book launch, and then you came back and graced us to talk about bullies.
We did talk about bullies. Yes, we did.
And now we're going to talk about mothers.
Who sometimes can be bullies too, which is tricky.
So we're going down our path, but let's introduce you first.
Well, Yolanda, it's always just such a treat to be here because we were talking before we hit record and how much fun we have digging into the hard stuff, the messy middle. I'm Andrea Mein DeWitt, and I'm a leadership coach and an author and a self-proclaimed warrior in recovery. And I really try to help people navigate their most difficult relationships and life challenges by teaching them to hold both love and boundaries, because I need it too.
Right.
And I really try to teach leading with authenticity rather than armor, because I am a recovering warrior. I created a 3-part system called Name, Claim, and Reframe. And it's a methodology that I wrote in my first book, Name, Claim, and Reframe. And I was very, very blessed to be featured on the Today Show as the 2023's most inspirational read. So I'm still riding that wave. I really believe, and that's why we're here today, that life's challenges and plot twists are invitations to discover who we're meant to be and who we're becoming.
Yeah. Well, I think what brought us together a little bit for this episode is that I had done an episode about being a good daughter based on Catherine Fabrizio's book. And I'll put that in the show notes if anybody wants to go back and listen to that. But you took a look at that and you went, oh my gosh, can we talk about this? So it turns out that both you and I are going down a certain path with regard to um, seeing things about our mothers that for both of us, I think, began because our fathers passed. And we started to see mom a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And that
Well,
was a shocker for me, but go
it
ahead.
was a shocker. And I'm gonna start by saying before I lost my father, a dear friend of mine lost her father, and similar, like you and I both were daddy's girls. She was
Yeah.
a daddy's girl. And she said, the thing that I notice about my mom is she's not even seeing my grief. She only wants her grief and how his death affected her. She doesn't see me, that I'm in pain. And so it was sort of that compassion of saying, okay, this person has lost their partner. Along with that, so that was the reframe, stepping back
Yeah.
from, okay, she's not seeing me in my pain, stepping back that this person has lost their partner. And the other part, and you touched on this, is, oh my goodness, I had such appreciation, and I know you do, for how much my dad really sort of filtered some of the stuff, and handled things.
Big
And it
time.
was, it was hard for her, and my friend who said, oh gosh, I didn't realize how much my father had sort of, helped her with these things, or I didn't see these things before. And that part, as a daughter, I mean, it was like we don't really even allow ourselves to grieve because we're so just, wow, I
Yeah.
didn't realize this. This is a whole different game now.
Well, and it was kind of a whole new identity and person that mom became. Mom wasn't with dad. So there wasn't the coupleness, and there was just her. And her identity for herself shifted. And she was on rocky, places of who am I?
Yeah.
Especially in my case, my mother is 96 and she had never been alone. So it was like, this is new for her. And I remember thinking at one point, I hope my mom does get some time on her own just so that she can discover the woman that she is, because she was so much a caretaker for my dad, or, you know, holding him up and taking care of him. That I looked at her and thought she's never had that time for herself.
And you've touched upon a really, really important point, Yolanda, which I think that all of us that are in this messy middle part, if we can reframe it and step back. When I say reframe, I mean you check your ego at the door and step away
Mhm.
and look at these women that are in their 90s, that their whole identity were being mothers and caretakers, and they didn't really have identities as independent women like you and I got to
Mhm.
have. They
Mhm.
didn't work outside the home. Maybe if they did, they still were, they were doing nurturing kinds of roles, maybe.
Mhm.
And I think that they don't have an identity. So they are just completely lost. And so trying to understand and see that perspective, again, it's that
Yeah.
both and.
Yeah.
Can I have compassion for this person who, maybe isn't showing up in their best way because they're struggling with who they are?
Right. And I don't think the ways to articulate that, the awareness is the self awareness was not at all developed or nurtured when they were, you
No.
know. So there's this lack of, you know, being able to tell people, watch out, I'm kind of in limbo right now and I don't know who I am. Rather, it's being angry about who and what I am right now and what's happening and lashing out. Um, that was what I started to see. Like I remember just saying to myself, who is this person? Because they didn't used to be like this. And I got so much self-awareness. It was like, oh, well, I thought that I could get through being the good daughter. Like, hey, I'm the good daughter here. I'm I'm the one who loves you and lifts you up and gives you lots of latitude and space. And then it would the shelling started and I went, whoa, what the heck has happened here? Um, and that was really new because I think, to your point, my dad was always the buffer.
Buffer. Yeah.
And she didn't get to be her full person because he was buffering her. Um,
Well, and eclipsing as well. I mean, there was a lot of that going on in that generation.
yeah,
And I think that those women weren't allowed to own their own light, really. They were in service to their husbands. I mean, I remember, something was came up recently about that women couldn't have charge cards, couldn't have
right,
credit or
right,
loans or
right.
anything until the early 70s. I mean, this is not new here.
Yeah,
This has been going on for a long time. And so we luckily are we got to ride the wave, and I'm in my early 60s, so I was able to ride the waves of those very brave women
yeah.
that sort of paved the way for us. I mean, and our mothers had to, were in the 50s where you had to be the good wife.
And that
You
was a
know,
big value, right? I mean, if we
that
look at
was that
values,
was your only value.
right? And then their spunky little daughters go along, you and
Yes.
I,
And
and our
I
values
was
are
so
totally different.
I loved that podcast because she really talked about the fact that we need to see them. I mean, they like I was when you were talking about your mom and that you have all this anger. I was thinking about as a coach and a life coach when I coach a client and they're in that hurricane and they're spinning and they're having their moment, they're having their emotional moment. And as the coach, I stand out and I just ask questions. So what's going on for you? Wow, that must be really hard because I'm not going to get in the hurricane with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I use those skills with my family. I think, this is not my hurricane, and I'm really sorry that you're in that hurricane. And that must be really hard to
Mm-hmm.
feel that anxiety. Because under the anger,
Mm-hmm.
because anger is a cover up emotion, is fear. And
Mm-hmm.
here is this woman who suddenly has lost her buffer, her security, all of that, and she's spinning. And she's, they're going down a hole, so they're grabbing everything. My husband always says they're thrashing in their puppy crate. It's like when you get a puppy and they thrash in the crate. They don't like this is the reality, and I don't like it, and I'm going to thrash around. And so I kind of think of it that way. I use that metaphor for
Yeah,
when people in my family have behavior that is less than stellar. They're afraid.
yeah,
And so I try to step away and think, okay, this isn't about me. And if I can, and I think I need to grasp a core belief here, a core value that I can anchor in so I can really ask some interesting questions to see really what's going on and maybe the why behind their behavior. Because sometimes, like you say, they don't really understand why they're behaving. They're
yeah,
they're just
yeah,
they're just angry,
yeah.
but they're really afraid. And my number one core value, which works, it's just this incredible core belief, is integrity. As long as
Mm.
I'm in integrity, as long as I'm doing, and I'm in my truth, I've spoken my truth, or I've been compassionate, or I've been patient, or I've put up a boundary, I'm in integrity, then I'm good. I can
Yeah.
anchor in that. But it's tricky.
It is
You're
tricky
so
because
done.
I think when it comes to moms, they're in a whole different, like even dads are on the lower pecking order than how society views mothers. They're near sainthood. They're like right up there. So the biggest thing that I saw for me was society says, oh, the poor woman in her 90s who's having difficulty with their daughters.
Yeah.
And let's blame the daughters for everything. It's because this poor woman in her 90s. And I looked at that one and I wanted to say, wait a minute. Can you get to know the woman in their 90s so that you let the daughter off the hook? Because in my family, I think there's in particular a couple people that have strong value judgments of me that I have not been a good daughter because to Catherine's book, the I thought the opposite of being a good daughter was bad daughter. And I went, I'm a bad daughter because we're estranged or we're not talking or she's saying she's disappointed in me or whatever it is. And I thought, it's so much bigger than just this societal value that, like a lot of constructs out there, we're supposed to buy into hook, line, and sinker
True.
when it
True.
doesn't turn out
And
that way.
I think it's tricky. And I saw this quote and it said, and I think about when people, attack you or don't like what you're doing, and they can't kill the truth of what's happening. So they assassinate the character, meaning your character, of you being the good daughter. I mean, they can't kill the truth of what's really happening as you're trying to do the right thing, trying to be kind and compassionate. So they are assassinating your character, which I mean, you're modeling what good people do. And I remind myself when it's tricky that my kids have said to me, "Watch, Mom. I don't know how you do that. How are you doing that?" They're watching.
Yeah,
They're watching.
mine.
And again, I go back to the integrity. Who do I want to be in this situation?
That's so good. That is so good, Andrea, because I think when you're triggered,
Oh,
it's hard to see there's a different way to be than just being triggered. So, like, I
well,
love that you could, just say, okay, wait a minute, step back. Who do I want to be in this moment?
I mean, when you're triggered, you're reacting. You're back on your
Yeah.
heels. You're out of your power. When you respond, you are back in your power. You're authentically who you are. You're in integrity.
Yeah.
And I have found silence to be a very useful tool. If
Mhm.
there's the voices are raised, I just get really quiet. A, they don't know how to respond to quiet, and also it gives me time to think.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's really good because I do think
How can I
there's,
respond
yeah.
strategically, resourcefully, and gracefully to
Yeah.
this unreasonable behavior?
Well, and two, for us to look at our own, take a moment and say, okay, what am I expecting from this other person? That's my part of it, right? Like, am I expecting this woman? Because the other construct is mothers love their daughters and they don't want to do anything to hurt them. Like, there's this mothers love their daughters, right? And then when they're when you're not feeling loved or taken care of, there you go, whoa, mom isn't being mom. Mom is being this other person, this other identity. So I own what I expect mom to be. That's my part of it
Let me
too.
ask you a question, and you don't have
Mhm.
to answer it, but I know I'm curious. Did you feel like your mother, I mean, did you see inklings of this kind of behavior when you were growing up? I mean, you must have seen jealousy or things of, I mean, you must have seen it, she must have presented in that you were a threat to her, this incredibly articulate, brilliant, I mean, look at you. My goodness gracious, yo. I mean,
Well,
that must be hard for her, so, and then, I
I
mean,
think I
think
think
about it.
again, dad saved me
Yes,
from her patterns that had been there
yes.
all
Pattern,
along.
patterns,
Yeah.
key, because
Yeah.
nothing's really changed.
Right.
It's just gotten more intense because she doesn't have the buffer, and
Mhm.
she's old and she's afraid and she's not capable, and there could be cognitive decline as well.
Yeah. All of the above, check all of the above. What I own though too is, and what this book really helped me see was that as a child, I wanted to survive in this crazy household. So I took the path of being the good daughter, of being high achiever, doing everything and taking every opportunity I could to advance. And so I worked really, really hard. My sister, on the other hand, took another path. And Catherine talks about this in the book of being the scapegoat. And that was my sister. And
Mm.
my sister took that path. And I would look at her strategy and go, what are you thinking, girlfriend? That's how you get hurt. So I thought that saved me. And I didn't see until my dad was gone that I had taken that strategy. And with him gone, there was no protection. And it didn't matter that I was the good daughter, that I had achieved, that I had done all of these things in life. She, it, it was gone. The safety net was gone. So she had always been that way, Andrea, but I had hoped I would escape it.
Well, it's also discovering that the truths that if I'm the good daughter, I'm going to escape that, and I'll be a high achieving and I'll do the right thing. But what happens is we don't acknowledge our own wounds, and we don't address, then we're really out of integrity because we've thrown ourselves under the bus. Um, and so it really backfires. I feel like in my family, I am the good daughter and the scapegoat all at once. I mean, I'm both. I am both.
Oh,
Um,
jeez.
yeah,
I'm
no,
sorry.
because, also I'm the only daughter. So, it's hard, but, I don't need, just because it happened to me doesn't mean it needs to define me. So I get to show up differently. It's really a choice of showing up differently. And
Yeah.
so, I really try, when I and you're saying things and I'm going nodding, going, oh, I know how that feels. And also to see your sister who you love and you think, oh, honey, don't do that.
Yeah,
But
don't do that.
that's her journey. It's not your circus or your
You know,
monkeys. She gets
it's
to
my,
do what she wants. I mean,
yeah.
I always think, and I am a spiritual person, and I think, God didn't call me here to be light. I mean, he called me here to be light, to be light, to be enlightened. And I wrote this book, my book, because I needed the
Yeah.
light. I needed to go towards the light. And by nature, light makes darkness uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I mean, when you show somebody that's in pain the light, or you behave gracefully, which I know you do, because you are a graceful, lovely, strategic,
Try to
resourceful
be.
person. Oh, we all try to be, and we aren't always. But I mean, when you behave like an adult, like a mature adult, it's like dealing with a teenager, really. It's not
Yeah.
rational. And you think,
Yeah.
oh my goodness,
Yeah.
this must be so hard for you to wake up and be this angry or be this uncomfortable. You know, let's, what can we do to help you here? Because I mean, sometimes you can't fix it.
No, you can't change the person and you can't fix
Well,
it.
and you
And
can't fix their pain,
no, they
and,
just,
and sometimes they just have to kind of, they have
I
to,
know that's kind of where I got to too, Andrea, that she has her path. She has her own path, just like I
Mhm,
have my own journey too.
absolutely.
And
So let me
I
ask
don't.
you this, Yolanda.
Mhm.
If you think about being the light for your mother, what does that look like?
Well, about 3 months ago, 4 months ago, maybe, I started just sending lots of light to her. Like you're, saying, like I would just wish her well and just have that compassion and kindness that you've, spoken about. I also decided not to engage in certain topics that I really didn't care to know about anymore, and just keep it. I found a lane that I could talk with her about. And you're going to laugh, but it's like college sports. We can talk about USC's football team, but that's about it.
But there's something that I'm hearing here. There's this incredible there's love
Mhm.
and compassion for her, and really giving her what she needs. Her world's gotten smaller, and USC, and I'm sorry, I'm a Bear fan, but USC football, man, it's exciting to watch.
It can be
And
some
lucky
games.
for you, because my goodness, they've always got something exciting going on, better than our
Right
Cal's
now.
football team. I mean, really always have something that you can talk to her about. And there's love there, and there's compassion there. And and I don't want to put words in your mouth. I would have to guess that integrity is one of your top core beliefs, and
Yeah.
my goodness, I mean, and I think, after she's gone, I don't want to have any regrets.
I
I
don't
want to
either.
think that I did everything I could. And man, some days were tricky, and other days, like, I'll hear, "Gosh, thanks so much for this," or "I'm so glad you did that." And I'm thinking, "Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
they noticed. Wow, that's a win." That's a
Yeah.
win. I'm gonna take that win, and I'm gonna harvest it. I don't think, and I'm taking notes for when I get to be 90. I just don't think, I think their world has gotten small. I think they're so afraid, and they're not relevant anymore. They just want to matter, and they don't matter to
Mhm.
anybody but maybe and not even their grandchildren sometimes.
Yeah.
And you walk through, my dad was in assisted living right before he died, and you'd walk through, and there were the people that didn't have anybody visit them. And the caretakers would say, "Your family comes to see him every single day." And I go, "I know, we love him, you know? And so, I mean, just for your mother to know she matters, however surface level it is, talking about the Trojans. Wow. And
Yeah.
she's connecting with you, and because she does love you. You're her legacy. And what a legacy. I mean, what a legacy. I mean, it must be hard when you come from that generation to have, you know, a daughter that has so much light, because it makes the mother feel so insignificant. If you
Yeah.
look at it that way, what changes for you?
Yeah.
'Cause
Well,
that's owning your light in a reframed way.
it totally is. I think it's, well, there's a couple of things that when you were talking, I wanted to just sort of address. One was about regrets, because I did a deep dive into that. Like, what the heck is that about? Is that really about fear underneath of how something's going to end in a negative way, as opposed to it being like, what if it turns out that the way in which you did live was good enough? Like you 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 don't need to feel the guilt or the shame. That that's
You mean,
optional.
I'm sorry, you as the daughter don't need to
Yes.
feel the guilt or
Yeah.
the shame. Okay.
Because
Because
I
you
think
did
that's
enough.
yeah, because I think that's one of the things that I really explored was this um feeling, like I was the bad daughter, which is guilt and shame. So is regret keeping, like, saying to yourself, we don't want to feel that way when someone goes. But couple things there. One is I don't think we ever really know how we're going to feel. We can't predict that, right? So, like you said, we do the best we can. And maybe there are things you could have done differently or should have done differently, but it couldn't have been any different.
Well, you can only control your
Exactly.
responses because we do try to respond as much as we can instead of reacting.
Right.
And when we have no idea what's going on in our loved one's head, we don't know how it's landing. You could have the best intentions of talking about SC football, and you have no idea how that's landing on her. You
Right.
you see maybe what comes out, but you don't really know. We don't really know. When they go, we don't know.
Yeah.
But again, it goes back to you. You know, who do I want to be?
Right.
I don't want to be the angry. I mean, somebody else can, assassinate my character. Go ahead. If you want me, if it's convenient for you to have me be the villain in this narrative, go for it. But
Yeah.
God saw it too. And I know that I'm in integrity with my core beliefs. And this
Yeah.
is what I'm doing to what I think is the right thing in this situation. And it's not always easy. And again, you addressed this earlier, but really creating those compassionate boundaries. Some days, I don't have the bandwidth to deal with this today. And I'm going to take a break. I'm going to send a text because I don't have the bandwidth. And
Yeah.
I'll call you tomorrow. And
Yeah.
then I've had a chance again, thinking time, so I can respond like the graceful person I want to be. And
Yeah.
I have to say this too. When think about the people that you admire that move with grace. There's a lot of people that I admire that move with grace. They cannot move with grace without grit because there is grit underneath that grace. You cannot have grace without grit. I
So
mean,
true.
the grit is pulling back and not saying the thing you want to say, that what the 12-year-old wants to say, but the 60 something graceful, you know,
Yeah.
crowned woman who is really in her power and authentically in her integrity is going to take a deep breath and think, gosh, what's going on for you? What's all this about?
Right.
I mean,
So, do you think that for you at this point, the healing that you've gone through, and I know that, I've gone through at this point, is sort of that claim aspect of your NCR or
well, can
NRC?
I just talk what NCR is, what name
Yeah.
claim, just so people know where we're going here, because it's so name claim and reframe is a three-part system that helps you respond to life instead of react to it. So you name your emotional triggers so you can respond instead of react.
Yeah.
You claim resonant core beliefs, core values that will help you to really be in integrity with yourself. So the actions really line up with your core beliefs. And then you reframe your mindset. When you reframe your mindset, you're able to check your ego at the door and see the situation from a different perspective.
Yeah.
When you have a conflict with somebody, if you're seeing it, if you don't allow yourself to see it from a different perspective by checking your ego at the door, you really can't expand your thinking.
Yeah.
And reframing, which is a big thing that I do, I've expanded my reframe in seeing things a different way. And that, when someone is struggling and they're angry and they're reactive, that's not about me. That's about their fear. So it's not personal, even though it feels personal when it's a member of your family and they're um,
Yeah.
assassinating your character or saying things that are really hurtful. That says more about them than it does about you.
Yeah.
And so when you talk about healing, I think healing, is something that is a lifelong practice.
Mm.
Just when you think you are healed, something will happen and you will be triggered to, react like a 12-year-old. And I mean, sometimes I think, oh, for goodness sakes, Andrea, you've written 2 books, for goodness sake. Is this really how you want to show up? I mean, most of the time I catch myself before, what's in my head. If you think it, nobody can see it. So
Yeah.
again, silence is your friend. Take a deep breath, and then I think, okay, who do I want to be? And sometimes it's even saying, you know what? I don't think this is a good time to discuss this. We're both emotional. Let's come back to this topic when
Yeah.
everybody's not so heated.
Yeah.
And I always say, and this I stole this from one of my dearest friends, and I love you. No matter what, I love you, but I'm gonna go now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because bottom line, your mother, wants connection with you. And that's all she wants. She wants to matter. You and your sister are her legacy,
Yeah.
and she worked really hard to raise you girls,
Yeah.
and that's like, wow. And to see, I mean, I hope for you that you find evidence, and maybe I hope that she acknowledges your incredible light, because the achievement, that it's natural for girls to be overachievers, because you never summit ever, because it's never good enough. It's never good enough, especially for you. So we
Mm.
need to, again, we need to bring back and take the light we're putting out and bring it back to ourselves. And that's the integrity part.
Mm.
Shine that light back at yourself. I'm doing this because I'm in integrity, and that's going to have to be good enough, because it's not good enough for the person it's directed at. I'm going to shine it back at me and remind myself that I am doing what core value action, all of that, and that's the claim piece. But we have to, once we claim those core values, we got to take it to the reframe, because we got to step out, check your ego at the door, because it's not about you.
Yeah. Well, I guess the thing we can tell our viewers and listeners is that the time in between each of those steps, and there's many processes you might go through between
True.
each of those steps, just so that you can get above water and not be in that trigger state. Because I do think that it happens so quickly that we get to guilt and shame that we like,
Well, we're still in the name step.
yeah,
We're
we're
still, I
still
mean,
at
we're
the
still in the
beginning.
name step. And I love that you said that, because name, claim, and refrain sounds so simple, but it's not. Sometimes it takes a really long time to get to the reframe, because you're still trying to claim something. 'Cause
Yeah.
you're thinking, oh, there's nothing here to claim. There's nothing here I can claim. This is just really hard. And it is. It's really hard. And you and I sitting here, I hope we're touching somebody, a man or a woman or someone out there struggling with someone they love that is in decline, that isn't their best self. I mean, this is the messy middle part. That's hard.
Yeah.
And there aren't easy answers, and my answers are different than your answers, but all we can do is just keep practicing
Yeah.
and allow it and giving ourselves grace to try something and then, well, that didn't work. Let's try this.
I think it's also giving us a permission to grieve
Yes.
because
Yes.
the loss of the mom we knew needs to be grieved, whether they're present or they're gone. I don't think I realized that. It was like unsettling. And then I realized, oh my gosh, who I thought she was is gone. But
Yeah.
it was coupled with my dad. So
So you said
it
a
makes sense.
word that I want to point you towards. Who I thought she was is
Exactly.
gone. So my question would be, you thought. So that's when all of a sudden these uncomfortable truths emerge. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
she wasn't ever there, and maybe that's what we're grieving is this idealized version of what we thought.
Exactly. Don't
But
we
the
all grieve that?
but
Like,
here's the
her
reframe.
mom was supposed
Here's
to love and
here's
care for me.
here's the reframe, is that we can take that and we get to reframe it in how we show up for our children and for
Yes.
our people,
Yes.
for everybody. Again, taking that light, shining it in a way that I want to show up that way. I mean,
Yeah.
I think there are so many uncomfortable truths that emerge when we lose one parent and one's left. And you think, wait a minute, I thought this, and that's not true. But I'm going to grieve that the warped way I thought it was, and it really never was that way. I mean, it never ever really was that, and that
It,
takes some marinating, doesn't
it
it?
does. It is a process to see the story that we have, as you said, the
Yes,
narrative that we've developed
indeed.
and how deep it goes and when it actually, and then you can just sort of say, okay, I understand why that happened at that time. And I love that I had to do that to survive. But today, I don't need to do that. Today, I can be without that and not, and feel confident and feel courageous and try new things and be okay that someone doesn't like me, you know, in big time. And she, and I agree. I think she does love me and want that connection, but there are times where she just does not like me as a
Well, I
person.
always, whenever I get, you know, just because I write a lot, or somebody will write something nasty back to me or something, because I'm, somebody
Yeah.
that writes things and says things in the on the public forum, I'll think, that person doesn't like you because your spirit irritates their demons.
Oh, I love that.
And that's Denzel Washington. I'm paraphrasing him, but I always remember, thank you, Denzel.
Yeah.
I mean, I always remember, I think, yeah, you know what? Just keep shining your light.
Yeah.
Just keep shining that bright, radiant light.
And I think that's what I found is if I follow that a bit, it there's definitely I'm able to be compassionate and kind, which are again in my top values as well. And yeah,
You can be
and
kind, but clear.
mhm,
You can still be kind, but set a clear boundary.
yes,
And I mean, kindness is, I mean,
yeah.
be kind whenever possible, and it's always possible.
I think it's Brene Brown who
That
says something about being unclear is not being kind.
no, it's not.
So to be clear, as you said, is very kind. And yeah, and there's times when you have to I know for me, I'll just check in on me and say, okay, am I up for this conversation now or am I need that time? Oh, gee, mom, gotta run, and I'll call you, but it's kind of that thing where I have to really own what I can do in that moment. And there, it's just been so freeing because I won't engage in certain conversations like I used to.
But right there, you
Yeah.
are being a good daughter. But the most important thing here is you're being good to yourself first. You
Yeah.
cannot be
Yeah.
a good daughter
Yeah.
unless you have filled yourself. Oprah says, I want to be so full of myself. I have so much to bubble over. You have to fill yourself with all that good resourcefulness, and then
Yeah.
you can give it to other people. But if you're depleted on an empty tank, it's not going to work. And
Right.
I love being able to say, you know what, now's not a good time.
Yep. I love it.
I love you, and I'll check in later.
I think I needed that sweatshirt that says, now it's not a good time. I love you. I think we have that.
Yeah, I think maybe you should put that on you could have that, sell that on your website. You could
Yeah, I
sell
have to
that.
look to
We'd
make that
all
into
buy
a
one.
cart.
Then we wouldn't even have to use any energy speaking. People would just know,
Love it.
right?
Oh, well, is there, I think we've covered a lot of our journey with our listeners and viewers. Hopefully they went with us on this journey, which we continue to go on. But I'm so grateful to you that you were, the universe makes no mistakes. The universe put us together. And here we are being able to talk about a very difficult topic and share it with other women who I know are lost in this relationship between themselves and their mothers. And
Well,
so
and
I
it's
thank
and
you. Thank you.
there's no magic pill. That's the thing.
No.
There is no magic pill. Um, and I will leave you with this. I mean, not everybody deserves your unlimited access to your energy. And again, that is, you can be kind but clear, but there are times when I don't have the energy to navigate this. And so um, my energy is for me first, bottom line. And then when I do have the energy, then I can help you with that. And
Yeah.
again, we have to choose ourselves before we choose anybody else.
Oh boy. So good. So, viewers and listeners, you've got to get Andrea's book, and I'll have that all in the show notes for you.
Oh, and I
Um,
have exciting news.
yes.
I have my audiobook is coming out December 2nd.
Yay.
So I can have that link for you. I'll send that link. I don't know when this is coming out, but we are so excited because self-help is dense. And if you can listen to little snippets, you can again marinate in it for a little bit. So I'm
And you've
excited.
got your workbook
In my workbook.
that goes with this terrific book that she's written. And the other thing, you guys, sign up on LinkedIn for her newsletter and
Oh,
her articles. So
beyond the
good.
reframe. Beyond, because
Beyond the reframe.
we have to dive. Sometimes, as we discussed today, you have to dive and you got to sit in that reframe for a while because it takes a
Yeah.
while to reframe some things, some challenges.
Yeah, but definitely sign up for that. I love getting her articles and reading them and so thoughtful. So please, I'll have that all in the show notes for you all. But um, I'm so filled with emotion right now of gratitude. It's like right up there for me, and I can feel it. And um, so thank you. Thank you again for
And
joining me on this.
thank you for your willingness to share tough topics. Because this you and I talked before we clicked
Yeah,
go about this was a tricky topic. And I think that you were able to create a container that I hope people can find tools for
me
their
too.
days, for their messy middle.
Good luck with your messy middles. Oh, thank you again. What a tender, honest, and deeply human conversation with my friend, Andrea Mein DeWitt. Every time she joins us, she brings a clarity and compassion that feels like a warm light. And today, that light is especially welcome as we move through the holiday season. Andrea reminds us that we can be kind and clear at the same time, that we can love someone and still hold boundaries, that we can honor our parents while also honoring ourselves. And perhaps most importantly, that we don't have to step into anyone else's emotional hurricane. We get to choose who we want to be, even in the moments that trigger our oldest wounds. Here are 3 takeaways from today's conversation. 1, integrity is your anchor. When you act from your core values, you can release guilt and stop performing the good daughter role. 2, compassionate boundaries are not selfish, they're protective. You're allowed to save your energy, step away, or limit conversations, even during the holidays. And 3, you're grieving more than you think. The loss of who you thought your mother was is real grief, and naming it is part of the healing. If today's conversation resonated with you and you want even more support for the holiday dynamics, I highly encourage you to check out Andrea's LinkedIn articles in her series Beyond the Reframe. They are gold and perfectly timed for the season. 2 in particular stood out. The December Rebellion, a powerful reminder that rest is resistance and we don't have to hustle our way through the holidays. And the other not to miss is When the Holidays Trigger Your Worst Self, a compassionate guide for navigating the emotional landmines that surface this time of year. These articles, along with her newly released audiobook, offer practical, heartfelt tools you can use in real time on your commute, during a walk, or even taking a breather from a family gathering. You can learn more about Andrea's work in our show notes. As always, thank you for listening, for sharing this conversation, and for being part of the community of courageous women finding their voices and breaking old patterns with intention. Next week, we're joined by Michelle Hensley, entrepreneur, widow, and founder of Nifty Package Company and Fate Tango. After losing her husband, Michelle rebuilt her life from the ground up. She now helps women, especially widows, rediscover possibility, purpose, and income after loss. Her story is powerful, hopeful, and such a beautiful reminder that starting over is possible at any age. Until then, take care of your heart, lead with compassion, and remember, you don't have to survive the holidays alone. We're in this together. Talk soon. Bye.